and welcome to us here at the Norway House. We're in our second dance session of 3 dance sessions that Kari, Tauring, and I have put together. And Kari and I have been choreographing and developing this series with some information and then the dancing. And she's a great troubleshooter and technician, so I appreciate all that assistance. So, and the dance that we are doing today is based or adapted from a bygdedans or village dance called Telegangar. It's a gangar or a walking type of dance from Telemark. And they have a wonderful map here at Norway House of, so you can see Norway, and Telemark is in the southeast part of Norway. And this is where the dance came from. This is how the dance came to me from my dad, who was from Telemark. This is the exhibit that they have at Norway House about the Tussen family who came from West Telemark. My dad came from East Telemark. The Gangar is basically the same on both. It's a 2/4 time dance to hardanger fiddle music or hardingfele music. And we've adapted it to be called the Folklore Gangar 21 because we did it for Folklore Village originally, and now we're expanding on that a bit. And the original place that the dance is from for me is where my dad came from, a tiny little remote village called Hjartdal in Telemark. And just a little bit more about Gangar. It's originally danced as a couple dance, and what we have done is adapted it to be an alone together dance so that you can do it by yourself. You can do it if you have other people in your household or your pod, and it's actually very nice done together, but no, you don't have to be near each other touching. So Folklore Gangar. So where Telegangar is from is a tiny village in Hjartdal, Telemark, in East Telemark. And so this is a map showing, if you're familiar with southeastern Norway, and you're going to be traveling from Oslo to Hjartdal and a valley along that main highway, and you can see that it's outlined in red there. And then this is a closer aerial version of the bygd, or the township, the village. And so you go from the farm, or you start at the main road, which is where the red circle, and you follow the highlight, and you go past, there's a flour mill, or they mill barley and rye along the river there, and then you go past the Hjartdals Kirke, the church, and the churchyard. And the church wasn't necessarily built, but the village and the farms were started in the mid-1500s. So that churchyard has farmers who were caught in an uprising against the Danish mercenaries who were overseeing a tin mine that's a little farther west. So it's historic. And then you go past the school, the elementary school, and then you keep taking that gravel road up and farther until you get to the little farm that's at that red arrow. And here's the view to the farm. It's over Sersland. There's a number of different farms, and they have upper, lower, middle, names for the farm name. So you can see that on the hillside, and you can see that it is quite rural, and there's a few farms near it, but it's isolated, and it's not flat there. So here's a little bit close-up of the actual view from the farm to a little bit to the valley, but to the mountains that are to the north. And there is the gamle stugu, or as they translate it, the old hut or cabin, and that's where my dad, Harold Sersland, was born. And then to the right of the picture is the stabur, or the storehouse. So this is the farm that he immigrated from, and this is where 8 kids and 2 parents lived in that little house. And you can see why, you know, as the girls and boys got older, they were wanting to leave that. The other thing I just wanted to talk about was, yeah, just, but there's the beauty too. So when we go over there, we see the beauty. But I think when my dad was growing up, when I knew he was leaving, there was a lot of hardship that they experienced. So that's where the dance is from. And I think to start out with Gangar, we should have some warm up before we get into the dance and the figures and the moves. So let's go. So then what we'd like to do is get started with a warm up. And there's no specific figures or steps that you need to do to this, but let's use some of the dance steps that we started with a week ago. And so we'll be doing some walking, and we'll be doing some of those crossover steps, and I will count 8 so we can do various figures in 8. And then you can follow along with me, or you can do whatever you feel like doing to this particular music. Here it comes, Folklore. Listen to the music first. That feeling, stop at your knees. Ready?
the tunes the first tune we started with, we talked about Tussen, and Tussen i Buchmannhaugen. So that is the farmers, and you heard Carol earlier say about how those early farmers wanted to keep their sovereignty in the land. And so dancing to the underground spirit means even more when we think about it in those terms of the land spirit itself rising up to help us keep our farms sovereign. This last tune we just heard is a Folklore Gangar. And the foss, and I've got my little dictionary so I can be very specific. Foss is a torrent of water, oftentimes a waterfall, but also you can use it as a foss of ord, a torrent of words that come spilling out of someone's mouth. So foss has a lot of different meanings, but when you add grim to it, that specifically in the book, in the dictionary, talks about it as a fiddler's terminology, that it is the spirit, the grim, of the foss, and that people who wanted to really hear the oldest, most magical tunes would go and spend a night by the waterfall. And sometimes they would say, oh, if you prick your finger and put it on a black wool and toss it in, that you can give the foss a gift for these magical tunes. If you look up the word grim on its own, it relates to the same thing, a fiddler's word, a violinist word, to explain that water spirit from the torrent of the water that's coming through. So you can see that that these tunes are deal with the land and the nature in ways that bring an older pre-Christian understanding of our place in nature and our place in space and our relationship to the land we're on into a Christian era where those things couldn't be talked about or practiced without some penalties by the church. And that is those pieces being kept within the hardingfele tradition is one of the things that made this instrument then be called by the church, the churchians, a devil's instrument, or an instrument that evokes things that are unseemly for Christians to be thinking about or feeling, especially the feelings that you get. Because you could feel with that one, the energy around it is one that just makes you want to move. And the only movement we should be feeling in church is the movement of the Spirit, and that should be done quietly. So anyway, so that's my update for you on this tune. And later we'll go back to the map, because I remember that first tune, that Tauring. This one is by Oystein Rummentveit, and it's on a different CD. But the first tune, that Tussen Buchmannhaugen, is combined with another song called A Sharing for Tin. And tin, when we go back to the map, will show where tin is in relationship to Carol's farm people. And that sharing, that is another one of those kind of buzzwords that I learned early on in my research to find stories about the magical women's tradition. Many of these sharing tunes have to do with the old ladies who are either talking with rabbits or fighting mountain trolls or changing horse bones into children, or changing men's bones into horses. There's a lot of material in there, especially those spårskjæring, those prophecy women. So, so again, with the insert of that sort of magical aspect of these tunes.
Now it's time to get back to Folklore Gangar and review the maneuvers or the figures that we learned in the first session. And we won't be using Buchmannhaugen, we're going to be using Tussen, Buchmannhaugen. So maybe we could call this Buchmannhaugen versus Tussen grudge match. So, but let's just start. Okay, so what we were doing last time is we were walking with a twirl. So I'm just going to show, and now we're going to get into the choreography part of the dance, so that we'll take those figures that we learned and we'll put them into a complete Folklore Gangar. So we're going to start left, always for each of the first 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, twirl, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and another 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 16 steps forward, and 8 to twirl, and another 8 forward. Let's have some music. There's a little Uppschlag, there's a little upbeat, and then we start with our left. So that's the first section of the dance. And then the music changes and we're going to change, but we're after 8 forward, twirl 8, and 8 forward. Then from there, we will be going into a crossover step, and I'll do the transition, but let's just practice the crossover step just on its own. So it'll be weight on your right, and then with your left free, you're going to cross over right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Your weight is on your right foot, and you're going to turn clockwise so that you're going to do crossover step facing out. We're in a little circle here. This is the center of our circle. This is out of the circle. So then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we start the next. But let's just practice that much twice through with music, and then we'll do the transition from the first section of forward into crossover. So weights on your right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we start again. So let's do that from the beginning again, just starting weights on your right, getting ready to cross over with left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we'll go from the beginning, and we'll do 8 forward, twirl 8, 8 forward, and then we'll transition. Okay, I know. Let me do this because I know the transitions are oftentimes puzzling. So I'm going to do 8 forward, and then I'll stop and go into the crossover step. So da-dun, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And on 8, there's a little turn towards the center. And you have your left foot free. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, you're using the weight on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just one more time with the walking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's go from the beginning with the walking, and I will call it. 1. Okay, I think we'll do that one more time, and then we'll get into the next maneuver. Okay, and is everybody remembering their svikt, which is, in my translation, is the wave, and what creates the wave is the softness in your ankles and your knees. So everybody's getting that wave in there, either walking with heels or flat, but you're getting that wave. And then remember the tyngde, so we're getting that weight, and also we're getting some kraft. So remember your energy, keep that up. So let's start from the beginning and go through the walking, twirls, walking, and then into crossover. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, I think we cleared that one okay. So there is the first part of our dance, and again, if you're not concentrating really hard on the steps that you're doing and your spikt and your twirl, then there's just to listen to the music. So after we have completed our last crossover step, I should probably face the camera, crossover step, then we're going into that wonderful figure called laus, or free, or loose. We are loose in most of this dance, but in the couple dance, this is where everybody gets to take off and show off and dance with your partner, just connected with your eyes. So after we're done with that last crossover step, we're right again, and we're going to start left, and we're basically going forward, but in a tighter circle than we were doing at the beginning. So that here we have our tree stump, or trivet in the middle, our little marker. In our case, we have that outlet right there, but use your imagination. So this is what we're going to be going around at the end of the crossover step. And it's a walking step. However, we've added the arms. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, it's that weight is on your right foot so that you're able to change directions and go clockwise again over your right shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then we're going to go back counterclockwise again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I noticed last week when I was re-watching the video is that, you know, by itself, it's a fun maneuver. But when you have another person across from you, it makes it that much more fun and energy, and also it just looked really fun. So let us, and the transitions are really the, I don't want to say difficult, but the transitions are the challenge. So I'm going to have Kari start the music, and let's just start with the crossover step, facing in, out, and then going into Laos. So we'll go with the music and crossover facing in, crossover facing out, and then just flow into the Laos part of the dance. So we'll start the music from the beginning though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the end of that segment with Laos. Then we'll go into another maneuver or figure or two. So, but we have a little bit of information about the dance and its context with other forms of artistry in Telemark.
So my cousin took some rosemaling classes, and this is the rose painting that you see. And she emailed me, she says, hey, my teacher said that the rosemaling patterns match the dancing patterns. Do you know anything about that? And I said, no, I do not. So then, of course, I went to Carol. I said, Carol, have you heard about this? And we thought for a minute, and then as we started to look at the different kinds of patterns, we realized how the ornamentation in the dancing does sort of follow the different kinds of patterns. So, for example, this is a sweater from Telemark that Carol's cousin made. And you can see how we follow the line of direction and then we turn. And then we follow the line of direction and we go the other way. And then we do some other stuff and then we keep dancing around. So it does sort of this meander and twirling kind of pattern naturally. I have a couple of examples. This is one that my grandma painted, a cutting board that was in her house all the time, and it's pretty rough. She would be not happy if I call this rosemaling because it's just fancy painting, she called it. But this reminds me more of the dances that are done in lines where different pairs go off, or you know, it kind of models a different type of dance. This is one that my grandma's cousin did, or my mom's cousin painted, and you can see how it's kind of like the Laos piece that we just did. Here's that center point. We're going to go this way around it. Now we're going to go this way around it. Now we're going to go this way around it. So it does. And then dance couples can break off and do their own thing here and here. Now to show you the most beautiful of Telemark style painting. This is by Knut Luen and was given to Carol in 1972. He did this piece, and you can see this same pattern. It's like the louse here. You go out and then you twirl. Now on the last figure that we're going to do with that one tight twirl, you can see how it's like twirl and open, twirl and open, twirl and open. And so it matches that kind of thing as well. Yeah, so that's kind of what we want you to understand about how the dance is very different from English country dancing, where everyone's doing the exact same thing. It's more flowing, more free, and in Telemark it's even more ornamentation. So you can make some of those. You can imagine, as we're doing the next section, that there's a paintbrush on your toe, and you're swirling, and the other paintbrush is going out. Or maybe there's paintbrushes on your hand and you're going louse this way, and then instead of just turning this way, you're going to swoop turn, because you got to swoop turn, and that's real good ornamentation.
And then we have the last parts of this Folklore Gangar, and those are not unlike the ornamentation and the embellishment in the rosemalling and the embroidery, and that is our turns where we get to show off, either for the other person or just for ourselves. So the first ornamentation or embellishment is our backwards step lift, and so how we were doing it last week was, so step back left, weights on left, and lifting right, and it comes just, we've still got those soft knees and ankles if you're able to do that. So step lift, so that would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, and then it's that old svikt, and giving it some weight, but we're giving it weight going backwards. But you have to go down to get up, down to get up, down to get up, down. And I have my arms out, gives me a little more balance. It's a little bit more difficult. But if I have my arms out, 1, 2, 1, 2, dum da di do dum da do la di da do da do. So let's try that let's try it for 16. So that we get used to it. And if it gets too tiring, just do it, maybe just do it a little smaller. Take a little break. It's okay. Okay, here we go. We're going to start left again. When I was showing it at the beginning, it was very linear. So we're just going back to get the feeling of the step. I think I had chew, ha, chew, ha. Or did I have ha, chew? I don't know, but we're doing it. Chew, ha, chew, ha, chew, ha, chew, ha. So that's just in a line. But since we have our circular dance going on here, let's try it one more time and be going just a little bit counterclockwise and back here. So, a little music. Ready, and 1, 2, 1, into that, there is a transition from louse in going into the backward step lift. So from Laus, I'm just going to show the last 8 going counterclockwise. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here is the one section that I had to make a concession to the fiddler's way of structuring the tune. So to go with the pieces in the music, so we stop here, but we're going to go backwards for 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after this, the new part of the music starts, and that's when we'll start this. So let's just try 8 Laus counterclockwise into 4 backward steps, again starting left. So we end on our right, and we just step left, almost like we're going to go into a twirl or the turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Weights on our right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're ready for the last tour. So everybody join with me. Let's go 8 counterclockwise Laus, 4 steps backwards, so to speak, keeping on going line of direction counterclockwise, and then into our step lift ornament. So I'm just going to talk it through for this time. So ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Step lift. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's go with the music. We'll start it at the beginning, not exactly where it is in the piece of the music, but we'll start at the beginning. 8 Laus, 4 back, and 2 8s of the step lift backwards. And if you notice too, when I'm going back, it's not necessarily static, but of course there's the Arsicht, and then to get, let's see, step. So there's a little bit of a turn again to get some tyngde and some kraft, some energy and power rather than just like that.
Yes, remember your feet are paintbrushes and you want to get a little swirl on each one.
Yes. Okay, let us start from the very beginning and go through everything through the back step lift. So here we go. Forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 again. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, swirl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, crossover. 1, 2, 3, 4, different melody again. So that's almost the whole dance. Now we have the last tour. We have come to the final maneuver, or figure or tour, in Folklore Gangar 21. And the last one in this adaptation is a backwards twirl. And it is used in the couple dance. We've adapted a little bit. So I would like to show it in its final form first, just without music, and then we'll break it down into pieces. So it's 1, 2, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and. So that is our twirl. I'll do 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and. That's our backward twirl, but we're going to start a little bit more elementary. So, and break it down. So the breakdown is we're starting left as usual throughout the dance. So left, and then stepping right, putting our weight on our right, as much on the ball of the foot as you can. So 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 2, and 1. So it's really 1, 2, but we've got that and where we're making that little bend. 2, and what's happening by putting our the ball of our foot down, that's giving us a pivot to go around. So 1, 2, and we'll start with not a twirl, but just a step. 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and. Okay. Kari's going to play some music for us, and we will just start. We're going to start, and we're going to start with the music, and we'll go in a line of direction without any pivoting, just backwards. So here we go. In the mechanics of this, and this is where the civic Kraft comes in, because we're pushing to get movement and to get that energy going. So instead of just, you can do it in place, but what we want is, we want a little forward movement going backwards, so to speak. And then we are going to stay in place, but give it. And so again, I hope you can see that what's happening is, so it's not just stepping up and down with my left, but I'm pushing off and back onto my right foot. Whee! Whee! So to speak. So let's do 8, starting in whatever space you have, but let's do 8 of the, what was I calling it?
Step. Oh.
Backwards turn. Let's do 8 of the backward twirl, like in line, and then go into as much of a twirl as you can give it. So, okay. Transition from our back step lift. 1, da-dee-dum, da-dee-doo, dum, da-dee-doo, dum, da-dee-doo. So after 2/8 of those, we will just go right into 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. So let's start with 2/8 of the backward step lift, and then go into the, and I will count it, and then we go into the backwards twirl. So let's start from the beginning, because that just gives us that little starting note. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there we are. Let's review that one more time with the music. So starting from the back step lift, 8, 8, and then go into the backwards twirl. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. That's a lot. Let's go through the whole dance. We've got the whole dance now to put together. There's two, what I'm calling two halves of the music, and we'll take the first half and it ends with this, and then you just start back in to the beginning of the dance again at the end of the figures. So let's go through the whole dance twice with the entire tune. Thank you all for joining me on that dance and that lovely piece of music that we have for Tussen Buchmannhaugen Folklore Gangar. The tune that we are using today is called Tussen Buchmannhaugen, and it's played by Tauring. He's a young fiddler from Bø in Telemark, and this is him. It's off of his CD, Den Gærne Bø Hardingen. That crazy guy from Bø. He looks a little crazy here. So he's a very good fiddler. So the tunes are passed down from fiddler to fiddler in an oral tradition, and this is the way actually I have the dance after my dad, is that he has passed this dance down to me. So this particular tune is, the melody in this tune is based on another tune called Tussen, and Kari had been talking about Tussen, the women, and this is from an area of Telemark called Tussen. And so, but the first part of the piece is actually the Tussen, and this was played by Alan Roheim, and he built out this tune, Tussen first, and then adding on Tussen. And if you listen closely to the melody, and if you listen to it enough times like I have now, you can start singing along with the melody. So there's the first part, and then it goes into Tussen, and so that first half is very nicely structured for these 8 bars. But then once you go into the second half, we don't have such structure. On the other hand, we have the rosmaling, and we have that free-flowing movement that Kari was talking about with the rosmaling, and we're able to take those tours and just kind of go up and down the hills, go up and down the mountains, and that kind of a feeling. Just one last thing about the person who Torgeir has the tune after, Alan Roheim. So he came to America, and my dad was always trying to get the fiddlers to come and visit him and stay with him and play for him. So he and Roheim got to be good friends, and so this whole circle of coming from Norway to America and America to Norway is completed with Torgeir. I would like to invite Kari to join me to show you the Alone Together format of Folklore Gangar 21. So same tune, Tussen, and here she's going to rev it up for us. And the next portion is, so I talked about Telegangar as being a couple dance. Because Kari and I are in the same pod, we have been doing programs together and dancing. And so we would like to show you Telegangar danced as a couple. It'll have a few different maneuvers in it than we've been using, but it does have a lot of those basic things that we've been working on last time and today, and to a different tune. So this was the Tussen versus Fossegrimen, and so we're going to take Fossegrimen for this dance. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Kari. Thanks to you all.
See you next time.